Mr. Chopra, really appreciate you joining us on News 9. Now, you have put out a message regarding the emergency, the health emergency we're facing in Delhi. If you could just go ahead and elaborate on your message at this point.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like I am living in two bubbles, one at home and one at office. Even in my video, you can see on the behind, I have like one of the many several air purifiers which are trying to keep our office air purified. But reality is like majority of people are not able to purify air. They are exposed to all kind of hazards. My own team members who are working on the field uh, are exposed to this terrible pollution. And this is one of those times where I can't help but think that the short-term convenience is causing a long-term disaster in terms of our health and the adverse effect that will have in the long term, right? And it just keeps happening year on year, and we really need to do something about it.
Mr. Chopra, in your message, you talk about the responsibility of the policymakers as well as of us as citizens, right? You say it's a blame that we have to share at this point. Why do you think, where are we going wrong? Because this is not the problem that has just come up. We have seen in the last 2 decades about, in fact, Delhi has been witnessing this menace. So where do you think we are going wrong as citizens as well as policymakers as well?
I think it's a terrible vicious loop at this moment. The residents of Delhi, it doesn't seem to care enough. Right? We have concerts and shows happening at full capacity in open air, and the fact that they are full shows that there is a certain amount of apathy. I've been to a dinner event where everyone wanted to be in the open air because it's Delhi's air is nice right now, while the AQI was above 500, right? 6 months ago, there was this whole conversation around banning the cars which are greater than 15 years old, cars that are supposed to be scrapped. Even in my business, I see so many of us, of customers and people around me, they don't want to scrap their car because, by selling it, you can make few bucks more as opposed to scrapping it. So I think there is this lack of awareness and lack of realization what harm we are doing to our own children's lungs and what bad this pollution is doing to them. And again, from policy perspective, we can't please everyone. These are the times where we have to take hard stance. Yes, it will cause short-term discomfort to all of us, including my business, if cars are told to be not run on the road for next few months. But I think we need to think long term. The business and everything else can be figured out, but the health is not going to come back, especially for the elders and for the young poor kids who will live with this for the rest of their life. I think the more I think about it, I feel it's something so bad we are doing to the next generation.
You are right. Health is actually the real wealth that we're talking about. And, as a CEO of a company that specifically deals with cars, you said that, you still want people to use and reduce their car usage. So do you think the time has come where we have to pay a personal cost to ensure that, we breathe cleaner air and there are, health benefits for us all?
Yeah, I think we are already paying terrible cost in form of our health, which will not come back ever. We have to live in the boxes of our home or offices or somewhere else. You can't really be in the nature. So we are already paying a lot of cost, and it's important that we recognize it, right? These are to most people probably invisible costs, but the cost is very grave, and we can fix this problem. And in really quick, there are countries who have fixed this problem,
Exactly.
right? We keep talking about them all the time, and it can be fixed. It just needs the policymakers, government, and the citizens to come together and realize that we will have to make trade-offs. We are already making a trade-off, a bad one, right? Let's
Right.
make trade-offs that at least focuses on our health and long term.
On that point, because we're talking about fixing this problem and, holding some people accountable, what are the policy changes that you would like to advise to the government at this point?
I think, there has been a lot of discussion around how construction, there is no one linked to pollution. There is
Right.
construction linked. It's to do with the dust on the roads, how the roads need to be better. There is vehicular pollution of all kinds, right, from cars to trucks. I think we need to act on each one of those, right? I think there is no single source of pollution at this point, and we need to take steps toward each one of those. Like in cars, for example, or in vehicles in general, we took 2 steps forward and then we took 5 steps back, which is around like still there is so much ambiguity around the fitness expiry of the vehicles. So many vehicles are still running with their PUCC expired. So I think even very small steps can lead to big changes here.
Right, because you're mentioning about cars and vehicular emission is something that contributes a lot to air pollution. So have you been able to maybe contact somebody in the government or any official about the kind of policy changes that you're proposing?
I think at this point, we are really keen to work with the government in at least helping them scrap the cars more effectively. I think a lot of steps have been taken in that direction, whether it's related to how you can get like a rebate on your new car that you're buying if you scrap your car. But I think we need to sort of work more closely together in making that implementation super strong. Right now, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, the implementation is still like 2 on 10. So there's steps we need to take, and there's steps we need to take with the policymakers.
Right, and on that point, because we are discussing, policy changes, do you think vehicles, who are 10 years old, do you think they should be discarded? It is time, or is that measure, effective in terms of the vehicles we have and the kind of engines and all we have?
I think it's not one size fits all, but
Okay.
there are still cars or vehicles in general that are like more than 20 years old that are
Right.
still running. There
So
are
do you
vehicles
think
which are
age
running with
should
it.
be a factor in that, in scraping of
I
vehicles?
I think age is a reasonable proxy, yes.
Okay.
Right. I think again, if we try to please everyone and we try to create a scenario that we try to overcomplicate it, then we are not able to implement it. So I think age is definitely a scenario, and I think greater than 15 years is a very very reasonable cut.
Because when this measure was coming in, there was a lot of backlash against this measure, in
Exactly.
fact. So
And I
how do
think
you
that's
respond to that then?
the less than 10% of Indians own cars, right? So we are talking about the still relatively the most privileged section of our society, right? If the air pollution is so bad, and we know that vehicular pollution is a significant contributor to it, and if for that we have to take short-term measures ourselves, I am personally ready to take those measures. I'm ready to take those measures today. I was ready to take those measures 20 years ago when I was a college student, right? I think because somewhere we have to let go of our personal discomforts and short-term losses for bigger long-term gains. At end of the day, again, my appeal to everyone is, by over debating and not doing anything about it, what we are doing is every day we are doing severe damage to health of our children, and I don't think they will ever forgive us for what we are doing to them right now.
It is indeed a health emergency that we're talking about. But on policy changes, do you think EV push is something that government has been talking about a lot? Do you think that is a solution, a panacea that we can in fact go as far as air pollution is concerned?
Yes, absolutely. I think as we think about long term, that definitely helps. Uh, but also at the same time, there are so many other things, right? The construction quality, the lot of construction that is happening, the dust around the road. So there's still a lot more to be done than what is happening right now. Vehicle is one part of it, but there is more than that.
All right, we've been discussing a lot on policy measures, but of course, you also appealed to citizens to take responsibility and to do their part. So what would be your message to them as well?
I think, that's what has been to me one of the biggest source of discomfort. Things change when citizens want the change. At this point, I feel sad that a lot of citizens don't want the change in the first place, because we are just so comfortable with the fact that, there is nice Delhi winter air, but what we don't see is that it's fully polluted. And we are very okay going out to restaurants, to parties, to concerts, and I see there is a general apathy, which if citizens were to become more aware and raise their voice and realize what bad we are doing to our health, I think everyone will come together to make some changes.
All right, you have rightly said it that normalization of this problem is also part of the bigger problem, and we have to call it out. We have to see that how it is an emergency at this point.